Let's talk about effective destroyer positioning. Hello, I am Xarkun, and this is World of Warships Legends. Today I've got a game for you in the Tier 7 Tech Tree USN destroyer, Fletcher. The game is a capture the base mode game on the map Fault Line, which is one of the poorest played maps, I think, in the entire game. And we're going to see the typical positioning on Fault Line evident in all of my teammates here. The first thing we should point out is that we have spawned, I guess, in the center spawn on the southern side of the map. And if you spawn in this spawn on the southern side of the map, what you should mostly do, especially if you're in a destroyer, is go to the east or to the right. Why? Well, you can see the two battleships behind me. They're already turning west to join the three ships that have spawned in the west. And what's going to happen is in the northwestern corner, we're going to see 3 enemy ships most of the time. And then in the northeastern corner, we're going to see 6 enemy ships gather up and push down that torpedo alley area. And when they do this, most often they're going to be facing 3 blue ships. And obviously that's not a good thing. Usually they're going to plow right through it. So if you spawn on the center in this map, it's often a good choice, particularly if you're in a destroyer, to come out into the center and turn east, because what you're going to run into is a gigantic push of enemies. Now, when I played this game for the first time the other night, before watching it back, I didn't really notice that the friendly destroyer spawned on this far western flank. That's the Z-23. I didn't notice until this point when I saw him taking fire from everybody. If I had noticed him, I might have actually gone to the east, but probably not, because again, we've got 5 ships over there versus what I suspect will be 3 enemy ships, and then 6 enemy ships over on this side. So this is where ultimately I'm going to be most needed, and I kind of thought that Z-23 was going to go down, but actually he's going to end up doing a very important thing that is going to contribute heavily to the outcome of this game. In any case, what we're looking for is a place where we can set up and launch some torpedoes. Now, we've already put some torpedoes in the water in sort of the direction of that Yamato. The only thing that's really a problem is that gigantic rock he's about to go behind, which is going to prevent him from catching any of our torpedoes. But we did shoot at him. We got a lucky roll of the dice there with the RNG and started a fire. Part of the reason we shot, though, was to see if we would get spotted. There was an enemy lightning in the area, and he smoked up. He was responsible for spotting the Z-23, which in turn led the Z-23 to get spanked by a bunch of these ships out there. Now I am radared by the Alaska, which is not great. We need to get behind this island before he can shoot us, but in any case, the reason we shot at that Yamato was to see if the lightning was in a position to spot us. He was, and obviously that was a risky choice on our part, but we were able to get out of it unscathed. We know the Yamato is making a beeline for our 2 battleships here, though, so we want to put ourselves between the Yamato and those battleships, and this is the perfect position to do it in. We can drop a smoke, and we know that the 2 friendly battleships are going to continue spotting this Yamato. So we can both shoot at him from within the safety of this smoke screen, and we should be able to launch torpedoes. If a battleship is traveling in a direction like this with an island to one side of them, then they only have 2 choices. They can sail straight forward, or they can turn away from the island. They can't turn into it because, of course, they'll run into it. So if you can get a battleship in a position like this, it is almost guaranteed death for them. This Yamato is both going forward and, I think, turning in. So we put, I think, 1 torpedo on the indicator and maybe 1 a little bit behind it to account for any turning he might do. We didn't quite account for him slowing down as much as he did, but ultimately, I don't think it matters. He goes down to 3 torpedoes, and there's our first kill of the game. We're up to 71,000 damage, but we are in a little bit of trouble here. There was an Alaska back behind this island somewhere. He radared us a little bit earlier, and we suspect that he might be following the Yamato through this gap. So we need to vacate this smoke screen as soon as possible. We know the Alaska's radar is on cooldown, so the radar is not necessarily a threat to us right now. But the Alaska also does have sonar, and he could potentially rush our smoke screen. Now, the Alaska is not exactly the best cruiser at dealing with destroyers all the time. It doesn't have a very quick rate of fire, although its HE can do a massive amount of damage to destroyers if you hit enough shells. Nevertheless, we don't want to get up close and personal with that Alaska. We want to retreat a little bit and reposition. As we do, we spot the enemy lightning. He doesn't have a lot of health left, and he has decided that he wants to pick a gunfight with us, which is a huge mistake. There are very few destroyers at Tier 7 that can go toe-to-toe with a Fletcher, and frankly, in a gunfight, the lightning is not one of them, especially a lightning with that much of a hit points disadvantage. He goes down for our second kill. Alright, so we still want to continue on this flank. There are at least, I think, 4 more enemy ships. There's this battleship, the Iowa. There is another destroyer that was spotted on this flank. There is the Lenin over there, and then there is still the Alaska. And all 4 of these ships are facing off against a solitary friendly battleship, which is a mostly dead Yamato. And in fact, there is the last remaining enemy destroyer, the Kaguro, running right at the Yamato, probably going to torpedo him. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, we have a deployment of friendly ships that is 4 in number, 5 if you count the friendly destroyer that spawned on this eastern side and went west. You can see that he is actually making a beeline for the enemy base unopposed, which is fantastic. Ideally, the 5 ships that went over to the western side of the map would have been able to overrun that flank, because there were only 3 enemy ships there. But as you can see, of the 5 ships that went that way, only 3 are left, and they are having a problem dislodging that final enemy battleship. So it's going to be a while before they get to the base. Imagine for a moment if that Z-23 was not there, or if he had died in the beginning of the match, as I kind of suspected he was going to die. Well, then those guys would have a long time before they finally eliminate that last enemy battleship up there and push into the base. And what's to stop the enemy over here from pushing into our base except me? And that is why I'm here. And this is what I'm talking about with positioning destroyers. When you get to know the maps enough, then you can find places to put your destroyer in order to make it more effective. And putting your destroyer on this side of the map, on fault line, with the spawn that I had, with all of these enemy ships doing exactly what I thought they were going to do, well, we're in a position to be as effective as we possibly can be. The Kaguro decides to pick a gunfight with us. He's got support from that Lenin. The Lenin did shoot us, but we decide to smoke up in order to play it safe. We don't know what else is out there that we can't see that can shoot at us. We know there is an Iowa and an Alaska, although we did hit that Iowa with some torpedoes a little bit earlier. I didn't quite call that out when it happened. Now we've got the smoke screen down in the base, lost sight of the Kaguro, but we've regained sight of the Lenin, and we can see that he is turning to the left of the screen, so we're going to put the torpedoes right in his path. Kaguro torpedoes are incoming, but nowhere near us, so we should be safe. And we do have one friendly battleship who recognizes the threat to our base and has turned around to help us combat it. You can see him heading this way now on the minimap, and that is a good thing. Oftentimes, players on that side of the map do not recognize the threat to the base until it's too late, but of course, luckily, I am here. We do manage to tag that Lenin with 2 torpedoes, and I think him turning to try to dodge those torpedoes has forced him to give broadside, to that friendly battleship, the Grosse Kurfürst. And so the Grosse Kurfürst is able to finish him off. We can see the Iowa out there in the distance, heading back toward the enemy base, along with the Alaska. So the threat to our base has been eliminated. And these guys are reacting far, far too slowly to the threat to their base. At this point, this is pretty much a guaranteed win. They are never going to reach their base before our friendly destroyer captures it. So all that's left to do is see if we can find this Kagero and gun him down. Don't remember if we do, but this is an example of what I think is fairly effective destroyer positioning. And while that Z-23 might have ended up capturing the enemy base and gotten the capture ribbon for it and ended the game, he was really not the one responsible for winning the game. In fact, that was me, due to my positioning and my defense of our base. Had I not been there, had I gone to, say, the other side of the map, then those enemies would have gotten into our base unopposed, and we would have had to react to them, and it's likely that in that scenario, we probably would have lost. But instead, we won. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.